When it comes to podcast mixers, the RØDECaster Pro is arguably the perfect all-in-one device. It allowed you to take all of your mic inputs, all of your headphone outputs, all your sound effects, and mix it all with physical faders. Then you could record your multi-track recording in WAV format to an external SSD, to a PC or Mac, or to a micro SD card through the slot in the back of the device. It really gave you everything that you needed to record a professional quality podcast. And surely you can't build upon perfection. Or can you? Earlier in 2022, Rode released the RØDECaster Pro II, their new, updated all-in-one mixing device. However, this isn't just positioned to the podcasters, this is positioned to all content creators. And Rode have been kind enough to send me the RØDECaster Pro II so that I can make a review video on it. I want to note that this has not been paid for by Rode, and this is not an ad or a sponsored post. They have simply sent me the device. All opinions are my own and are made from my own usage of the RØDECaster Pro II. But big shout outs to Rode for sending me this device. So in this video, I'm going to be talking about the updates and features made to this device. I'm going to be talking about what I like and some of the drawbacks of this. And I'm going to be talking about whether it's worth the £700 or $700 price tag. Also, would it be worth upgrading from the RCP1? Well, you'll have to stay tuned to find out. I'm Tom with Producer Hive, and let's take a look at the RØDECaster Pro II. And what better way to record this review video than to use the RØDECaster Pro itself? I've got a Rode pod mic here, which is hooked up to a Rode PSA 1 Plus stand. Big shout outs to Rode again for sending me these products. I've made a review on these, so you can go onto the Producer Hive channels and check that out right after this video. That's all plugged into the RØDECaster Pro that I've got on my desk back here, which is showing up in all its lovely LEDs, and I'll talk more about those in a moment. And that's all connected into my laptop down here, and I'm recording in OBS. Probably one of the most important things that you're going to be looking at, especially with recording podcasts, is the audio processing quality that comes out of your mixer. If you're capturing 4 different inputs, you want to make sure that every single person is going to sound crystal clear. And from my experience using this, especially when using this for a podcast that we recorded, this does exactly that. This device is going to capture all of your voices, isolate them really well, and that's partly in thanks to the Revolution preamps that are introduced into the RØDECaster Pro II, which helps deliver ultra low noise and high gain. I think Rode stated at minus 135.6 decibels for the noise and at 76 decibels for the gain. Now, I'm no sound engineer, as I just said. I don't know anything about that, but what I do know are the results. And when I used this device to record a podcast with 3 people involved, I could hear each person individually crystal clear. When I looked at those different tracks and I was editing that audio, it came out great. There was a bit of a shortfall in the gain, and I did have to boost that in post, but that is all of the processing that I had to do on the editing side of things. Literally just right click, audio gain, plus 10, that's it, done. And then Rode have also included the Aphex processors in the RØDECaster Pro II, which they state delivers studio quality performance. And this helps produce some of those onboard effects and some of those onboard sound changes that you can make with the RØDECaster Pro II. So an example of that is, if you want to make yourself sound like a robot.
Or if you want to provide some echo, then you can do that as well.
Now, I don't know how often you'd be using these kinds of sound effects, but it's nice to know that you have them at the touch of a button. From what I've seen from my usage of this device, it doesn't look like you can assign those effects to specific audio channels. It looks like you can only put them on for everybody, all of your channels to be using at the same time. I don't know how much of an issue that might create. I don't know how much you would want to use these kinds of effects. It's cool to know that they're there, and if you're recording a solo podcast with yourself, you've obviously got all that functionality at the touch of a button. But you can't assign it to the specific channel. So if you want one person to sound like that and one person not to, then you're going to have quite a time of manually changing that effect on the RØDECaster Pro II. The design of the RCP2 isn't too dissimilar from the RCP1. The shape of the RCP2 is slightly more square-like and takes up a smaller footprint on your desk. Or off your desk if you prefer, because Rode have added in screw holes to the RCP2 to allow you to attach it to a mount, so you don't even have to have it on your desktop, you can have it mounted instead. So as I'm editing this video right now, I'm watching back the section where I talk about mounting the RØDECaster Pro using the screws underneath, and it gave me an idea. I did this. I mounted the RØDECaster Pro II onto my Rode PSA-1 mic stand, and to surprising results, it actually does kind of work, but I wouldn't recommend it, and here's why. It doesn't support the weight properly. You can extend it out and you can tilt the RØDECaster, but it just isn't strong enough to actually allow you to fully articulate it on the mic arm. It is a mic arm after all, but it had the right sized thread to allow me to mount the RØDECaster onto it. It's still practical. I could still use it if I wanted to, but I wouldn't recommend it. Just something interesting that I found during my time with this device. I think the RØDECaster Pro II is a bit more portable. If you wanted to, you can fit this device into a backpack and take it with you on the go. So if you want to collaborate with another content creator, or if you want to meet up with your friends, or like I have done, take this into work so that you can record multi-track recordings, then you have the ability to do that. Just chuck it into a backpack, take the charging cable with you, and off you go. But while we're also looking at the great things in design, I also have to talk about one of the drawbacks with this, and this might only be a personal gripe, or some of you might experience this as well if you've already used the RØDECaster Pro II, but I really don't like the power button. I don't know why they changed it over the last model, but the kind of squishy button feel that you've got on the back makes me, firstly, it makes me really unsure as to whether I've pressed it in the first place, and two, I just really don't like the feel of it. I preferred the more clicky tactile feel of the power button on the RØDECaster Pro 1. I'm nitpicking, it's a small issue, but it's a design flaw for me. I think the design of the RCP2 is great. I love all of the LEDs and I think it looks fantastic on any content creator's desk. I love how it looks here on my desk here, and I'm very happy to be using it. So yeah, design is solid. The 5.5-inch touchscreen of the RCP2 is now angled upwards instead of flat on the device, and you've got 6 faders instead of the 8 that we had on the original model. You've now got 3 virtual faders, which are controlled by a thick dial, so you don't actually lose out there, you do gain one. I'll talk more about the faders in a second. You've got 4 LED back dials for all of your headphone output volume control, which are now in a straight row as opposed to the square shape that they made up before. And the recording button is now a circle instead of a square, and on the left-hand side of the screen instead of the right. Each fader has got a button at the top of it so that when you press it, you can immediately go into the settings for that fader. And at the bottom of each fader, you've got 2 buttons that allow you to listen or mute that channel specifically. There are plenty of colourful buttons on the RCP2, and 8 of them are the updated smart pads. With the RCP2, you have 8 banks. They have doubled up on the amount of banks that you have, giving you a total of 64 programmable buttons. You can add in your sound effects, you can add in your voice effects, you can add in pre-recorded sections. You can do all of this using all these buttons in the RCP2, but that's not where it stops. See, Rode didn't just look at this and go, we can add in some virtual faders, we can add in some combo jacks for more inputs. We didn't just want to add in an extra USB port. They also wanted to give you MIDI controls as well. And here is the thing for content creators now. If you want to hook this up to OBS and have your whole OBS setup configured with MIDI controls and use it via the RØDECaster Pro II, you have the option to do that. Now, I'm not going to go too much into the detail of all the controls and everything that you can do. There's other videos on YouTube which will explain exactly how the MIDI functionality works on this. What I'm going to highlight is the fact that it's there and the fact that you can have greater control as a content creator from your RCP2. Now, I'm not going to say this is going to replace something like your Stream Deck. I personally don't think it would. I think it would work alongside your Stream Deck. This is something that Rode have purposely added in to appeal to more content creators and give content creators more control. You can manage your audio inputs, you can manage your sound inputs from your streaming platform or from your video creation platform, and you can use the MIDI functionality as well. It's a really nice touch from Rode and something that they didn't really have to do to make this device better, but it's something that they did anyway. Now let's take a look at ports and connectivity options for the RCP2. On the back, you have got your 4 combo Nutric ports. This is a big update over last year that will allow you to plug either XLR mics into it or 1/4-inch jacks. You've then got 2 1/4-inch outputs for your left and right monitors, 4 1/4-inch outputs for your headphones, 2 USB-C ports, an Ethernet port, a micro SD card slot, and your USB-C proprietary power. So the RØDECaster Pro II is actually powered via USB-C now, not the original charger that you had. So if you were hoping to use your original charger with the RCP2, you're not going to be able to do that. It is now powered over USB-C, and there is a specific port for powering this device over USB-C. Additionally, it's important to note that with those other USB-C slots, while you can connect devices via both of them, only the first slot will allow for multi-track recordings. So if you have a Mac or a PC that you want to use to record your multi-track recording, that has to be plugged into slot 1, and then your additional device, be it another computing device that you want to plug in to perhaps dial someone in or add in some sound effects, then that can be plugged in to your second USB-C slot. And you can also connect devices via Bluetooth. You can connect either phones or portable speakers. So if you want more input or output options for your audio, you can connect them via Bluetooth and control them with either a physical or a virtual fader. And looking at those updated Nutric ports as well, this will give content creators a lot more functionality with this device. This was already a successful podcasting device for plugging in your XLR mic inputs, but I think Rode have done a fantastic job here in expanding this to additional content creators. Let's say you're in a band, you want to plug in an XLR mic, a electric guitar, an electric drum kit, and a bass. You have that functionality here. You can plug all of those instruments and control them through this device. You get all your channels, you get all your faders, and you can control it all in the RCP2 and record it in the RCP2 with that micro SD card slot here. So big props to Rode for adding that in. I think that is some really expert functionality that they've added in, and a true testament to making this available for more content creators and not just podcasters. Now, while I think Rode have done a great job improving the connectivity with the RCP2, there is one major drawback with the connectivity options for this device. If you're creating a device that is targeted towards content creators, it's making it tough when you leave out one of the key things that they use. A lot of gamers, YouTubers, and streamers use USB mics instead of XLR mics. And Rode have not included any kind of input for USB-A connections. Okay, yes, there is the USB-C port, but how many people have got USB-A to USB-C converters lying around?
Hello again, same hoodie but different day, because I have been doing some testing and I found that even with an adapter, USB mics do not work in the RØDECaster Pro II. I tried using a USB-A Blue Yeti mic with a USB-C adapter and it did not recognize it as an input, which then leads me to believe that it will not recognize any kind of USB-A or USB-C mic either. Here is where it gets interesting, because Rode are marketing the RCP2 towards content creators, gamers, streamers, etc, etc. And they have also released a lineup of USB-C microphones targeted towards, you guessed it, content creators, gamers, streamers, etc, etc. Why would they make a mixer and microphones that are incompatible with one another whilst targeted towards the same audience? I feel like it could be solved with a firmware update in the RCP2, but until then, you will not be able to use USB-C mics in the RØDECaster Pro II, which leaves out a big target audience of people who are already using those types of microphones. So Rode, that's one thing that I suggest gets fixed.
So in the RCP1, you had a small standalone 3.5mm jack on the front of the device that you could use and connect in a pair of standard earphones or in a gaming headset. In this device, they removed it. I'm not too sure why. Maybe it just was not used and taking up valuable space that they otherwise wanted to use for other ports that they've put into this device. But yeah, it's just something that they've taken away, and it's just a general observation, neither bad nor good. It's just interesting. The menu on the RCP2 is fairly easy to navigate and get used to. However, there might be a slight learning curve with going through it. However, the screen does have built-in haptics, so you know when you're pressing buttons. Personally, I think that's a great touch. I like reassurance when I'm doing things, unlike the power button on the back of the device. I tend to find as well that the more professional your setup gets with things like XLR mics and big mixers, I'm used to USB-A mics, just plug straight into my PC. I tend to find that the more professional, the less easy it is to just plug in and play. And that seems to be the price to pay for higher production content creation. You are going to have to spend some time getting this device set up. You're going to spend some time plugging in all of your inputs and organizing all of your channels and faders, but it's going to be worth it to produce that better quality. If you are looking for something that will allow you to just switch on and record your audio, then this might not be the right device for you, because you will want to spend some time configuring it and getting it right. And that leads me on to my next point about the mic presets. So if you want to use some different microphones or the same microphone in the RØDECaster Pro II and get them configured to work the best way possible in the way that they're designed to, then Rode have added in a bunch of presets into the RCP2 to configure these microphones to give you an easier time instead of having to manually do it yourself. For example, I'm using the Rode Pod mic. This is configured into the RCP2 to take channel 1, and I've selected the preset Rode Pod mic. So now it recognizes that a pod mic is being fed into it, and it will configure the noise and the gain so it is an optimal level for the Rode pod mic. And I've got it configured for basically every XLR Rode mic. So whether you're using a Procaster or a pod mic, you just hit the preset and you can use it. But it doesn't end there, because Rode have also added in presets for other microphones as well, like the Shure SM7B. They didn't have to add in a competitor microphone, but they recognized that there's so many of them in the market and people love using these Shure microphones that they may as well include it into their device as well. Then you've got the preset, it's going to sound great and give you the audio quality that you want. So it seems like the focus from Rode here is on you, the creator, and giving you the best output possible and not trying to keep you within their own ecosystem. And that's a solid move from Rode there. So yes, while it's not particularly super plug in and play, you can just plug it in and go, it does give you as many tools as possible to make that as easy as possible when you're setting up your recordings. And once you've got it done once, you won't have to do it again. Throughout this video, you see me making quite a lot of comparisons from the RCP1 to the RCP2. And after going through this video, it's really time to address that question, is it worth upgrading? My honest answer is, if you're using an RCP1 to just record your podcast and nothing else, then no, it's not going to be worth upgrading. However, if you are a content creator, if you are looking for more functionality, if you are looking for more customization, if you want to add in additional devices and get better connectivity, then I would say that the RCP2 is going to be worth it over the RCP1. I think the benefits from the preamps, from the Aphex audio processing, from the additional sound effects, from the additional USB port, from the additional line-in support and allowing you to put in musical instruments, the additional smart pads that you can get, the MIDI inputs that you can add in, all of these things I think make this easily worth the upgrade from the RCP1, if not purchasing this fresh for your setup. Back to that question at the start, is this the perfect all-in-one device for not just podcasters, but for content creators? Well, I don't believe in any such thing as perfect, but I think this is pretty damn close. Despite the lack of a USB-A port, the fact that they've added in those combo Nutric ports and the additional USB-C port makes this a much higher level for content creators than the RCP1. The audio processing with this, with the Revolution preamps and the Aphex audio processing and the quad-core sound engine that it's got, is fantastic. Everything comes out crystal clear, and I have had no issues with using this to record multiple people at once in a multi-track recording. I think the RCP2 is a brilliant device, and if you are a content creator looking to level up your output, looking to add in multiple inputs into a central mixer so that you have everything at your fingertips in terms of control, then the RØDECaster Pro II is an extremely strong contender for that. And if you made it this far in the video, then I have to say a big thank you for watching. You can find plenty of other videos, including my own reviews on the Producer Hive channel. A like, a subscribe, and a comment always goes a long way and helps the channel grow, so we really appreciate it. Additionally, if you'd like some more content from the Producer Hive team, you can go on producerhive.com and find plenty of articles for you there. So let me know your thoughts. What do you think of the RØDECaster Pro II? And what would you like to see implemented if Rode were to release a new model in the coming years? We'd love to know your thoughts. I've been Tom with Producer Hive, and thanks for watching.